this interesting podcast my mom was listening to, Diary of a CEO or something like that. You ever heard of that?
No. Who's
The
the CEO
Diary of
she
a
was
CEO.
listening to?
Stephen Bartlett. Anyways, the guy, I guess he interviews lots of different people, but someone was talking about starting businesses in, under AI, new stuff, and he was talking about the basically summing it up, it's like, you do have to come up with a personal brand to some extent, and the world of long form content is here. With Trump on Joe Rogan and all that kind of stuff, people want to see free ball long content. That's how you buy trust with your customers.
Hey, yo. Okay. Speaking of free ball long form content, here we go. Welcome back. Welcome back. Joey, glad to have you back on the show. How are you feeling how are you feeling overall percentage wise?
I'm feeling 70% right now. For those people not aware, I missed the last podcast. I was battling the flu or COVID or something like that. It felt a lot like when I had COVID. I didn't get myself tested, but yeah, kind of like long, long flu-like symptoms.
Tis the season. I feel like everyone I know, including my parents, all got COVID right now, except for me. So I'm like dodging a bullet, working from home. Might go get a COVID shot. I don't know if that's going to be effective at this point.
Yeah, not sure, but I mean, I'm glad it happened now. I feel like I've got enough time to recover before our upcoming trip to Japan. So I just, traveling sick is not fun.
Totally. Well, glad to have you back. We are going to do a free ball Dear Diary kind of series episode today. A lot's been happening in the world. We're going to take this conversation however we want and not really worry about the listener learning too much about Akia stuff. But I think inevitably, we're going to talk about Japanese real estate and how current world events are affecting us, right?
We always do.
All right. So, very first topic, Trump is now our president of the United States. Maybe not your president, but my president of the United States. How do you feel about that? And how does the Akimart website traffic feel about that, Joey?
Yeah, it's interesting. This has been something we've talked about recently. Someone from the Nikkei Shimbun, so large, I don't know, maybe like the Wall Street Journal of Japan kind of newspaper, reached out to us to ask specifically about that. Have we seen any upticks in traffic due to Trump getting elected president? Are Americans trying to leave the country and, move abroad? And at first, I was kind of skeptical. Someone else in the space, maybe a few months ago, that's starting, someone we know is trying to create a bunch of like video content about how to buy and renovate homes in Japan. And they told me that they were aiming to have this video content released the day of the American election. And I thought, no, there's no way people aren't going to
Spicy.
be, the election's not going to have any impact on, people wanting to purchase property in Japan. But after the Nikkei Shimbun article, I've been paying a little bit more. Or sorry, they didn't give an article, but an interview. After the Nikkei Shimbun interview, I have been watching our analytics a little bit closer, and yeah, there was a spike around the election, but a very big spike we've seen in traffic, signups, etc., around the inauguration.
It's crazy. It's like 100+% traffic. It's like it's incredible how much more traffic we're getting now. But it's also weirdly coming from a lot of different places in the world. We as we look at our active users, we had for the first time in a long time, the U.S. was overthrown by Italian users looking at Akimart. I found that really interesting.
Yeah, sometimes I don't know if you see it given the time zone you're in, Take, but when I wake up in the morning, Japan is usually the top traffic country at the moment. And then that shifts to the United States, you know, quickly in the morning at some point. I'm not sure exactly when, but yeah, it does jump around. But you're right about Italy and EU in particular. We don't see a lot of traffic from the EU.
Cool thing about Akimart and something we haven't really dove into is we have a lot of cool data, and I think there's a lot of analytics that someday we can pull this apart a little bit. But we have looking at our analytics site right now, we have like 100 users online at this minute, which is like pretty insane, Jerry. Congrats.
Congrats. Yeah, I do think we have interesting data. Actually, just this morning, for whatever reason, I decided to look up the Zillow blog. See, like, what is Zillow talking about? Are they, excuse me, are they talking about their data in any way? I kind of wanted to see what type of data research they're doing and see if we could get any inspiration from it, because now, especially with the more like geospatial stuff that I've been doing for listeners and users of the website out there, we're coming out with a bunch more map based features, like the ability to, like a short term rental map. Where can you do short term rentals? What laws are in place there? Quite complicated, but other things such as landslide hazards, which zones are zoned agricultural, very hard to buy property in agricultural zones. But, given that I've been spending so much time on geospatial stuff, I feel like there's a lot of interesting analysis that we can start doing.
Yeah. I'm excited. Data nerds here. But yeah, thank you guys for checking out Akimart. It has been growing quite a bit, and we have a couple super fans here, so appreciate your guys' support. Keep the feedback coming. We have been getting emails every day by smart, getting good feedback and bad feedback, but just send it through. And we do appreciate hearing it.
Send it through, even bug fixes. I'll reply to every single person that hits us up with bugs that they notice. So do appreciate that as well.
All right, let's go back to Trump here a little bit. So our site traffic has nearly doubled since inauguration, which has been interesting. Actually, thinking back to, we've done a lot of consults. Actually, get some more on consult stuff later, but I've had at least 3 one-on-one consults of people being like, "I wanna leave the country because of Trump." So I know we've been splitting up consults a little bit more often. Have you had any?
I have had, yeah, maybe three sounds about right. I wouldn't say it's overwhelming, but maybe, and rarely I bring up the topic of politics when we're on these consults. So it would be on the client for them to bring it up. But yeah, three sounds right.
I had one dude who just, like, very, very explicitly was like, "Hey, I'm prepping in case Trump gets elected." And I was like, "Whoa, this is very straightforward." But it's, if for anyone that's in that camp, Japan is, I think, a really good option, affordability wise, safety wise. It's overall. We've talked about it a little bit. I think Japan has its deep set of problems that I don't know how it's going to turn around. But for at least the short to midterm, if you really can't stand being in the U.S. and make America a great country again, it's a good option to consider Japan.
Yeah, I mean, you are going to replace one country's problems with another country's problems. Japan's not perfect. I live in Canada right now. Canada's not perfect either. Every country has its problems, so it's not. There's no, the grass is greener syndrome is at play here, I believe. But do you think these people, like, obviously you need some sort of visa immigration status to just up and move to Japan? Are these people in on your consults? Are they thinking that far ahead?
Hmm, I'd say probably no. And anyone listening to this who's like, "How do I get a visa?" Take a listen to our podcast episode with Nick at Japan Remotely. He talks a little bit about visa strategies, how to get there. But no, most people are kind of just thinking like, "How do I buy a house?" And they're kind of similar to us, just like they want to start building a backup option if something goes wrong here, which is, I think, quite fair. But short answer, no, people aren't thinking far ahead. If you are considering, though, just know Japan's visa system, you are allowed to buy property without a visa. But to be here on a tourist visa, it's typically you can be here for 3 months at a time, twice a year. Am I saying that right?
3 months at a time, twice a year. Yes. Yeah, it gets complicated. Without jumping into that more, I do recommend talking with Nick or listen to our podcast with Nick. But yeah, very, very high level. You can do 90 days in Japan twice as a tourist. And again, that's a privilege, not a right. You can be refused at the
Yeah.
border for any reason.
Yep. All right, let's talk a little bit about tariffs. I know you're in Canada. I know we've had this discussion as we make our business. Joey's based in Canada, I'm based in California. Trump has put tariffs on. Has that gone into place, or when does that go into place? The 25% tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and I don't know what happened in Colombia just like yesterday.
Yeah, right now the Canada Mexico stuff, I think he delayed it till February 1st, but even then
It's coming up. That's like next week.
I mean, it was supposed to be day one of
Day
his
one. Oh man.
presidency.
Okay.
So who knows? There is a lot of bluster that comes from Trump, and maybe he forgets things and moves on to whatever is exciting for him at that moment. So unsure, but tentatively February 1st.
Question: is this going to affect Japan? To my understanding, psychologically, the the country of Japan is going to be, or like every country is going to be like, hey, is Trump going to put a tariff on us now? It's like a back of the head worry, right? But I don't think
I
there's
think
anything immediate.
nothing immediate that I've heard of. I do think that you brought up Colombia, which is, in the news right now. That just kind of happened. I do think Trump sees tariffs as his, like, he's got a hammer and everything looks like a nail. So I do believe that if Japan were to do something that Trump doesn't like, I believe he'll pull out that hammer.
Damn. That's all right. Interesting. Interesting tactics. Yeah, he like what was the thing with Colombia? Like he sent a whole bunch of people the US was deporting over back to Colombia and they sent the plane back or something and he threatened tariffs. Is that what happened?
Yeah, a little bit more nuanced. Colombia and these other South American, Central American countries, they're already even during the Biden administration, deportations were happening, but they're happening on civilian aircraft. And just reading the news, it appears that the head of the country's military needs to explicitly agree for another country's military planes to land in the country. And because Trump was deporting these migrants using military planes, the head of these governments needed to explicitly agree for those planes to land, and Colombia's president said no.
Oh boy, oh boy. Yeah, I'm
So it's
sure.
not. They are
Yeah.
accepting deportations. It was just this one instance where they happened to say no.
Mm, interesting. I think like it's interesting how the globe and the world is maybe I think are looking at this and seeing like what's going to happen with us. I think Japan's quite safe though because we're pretty strong partners and Masayoshi-san just put 100 billion into the Stargate. Is that what it's called? Stargate plan?
Stargate sounds right. Yeah, I
AI.
haven't read too
Yeah.
much into the AI stuff. I mean, here's the thing with Japan though. Canada and US are very strong trading partners as well. So things can flip on the, on a dime here. I do think that the biggest issue with Trump tariffs is going to be domestic. Tariffs disproportionately affect American consumers more than they affect the country that he's aiming them at. So if Trump starts firing off tariffs all over to all these different countries, it's going to affect Americans more than it's going to affect those individual countries' consumers. So what's going to happen to America's economy if a bunch of these tariffs come into play, very high tariffs come into play, and if American consumer trends change as a result of those tariffs, how's that's going to affect what we're seeing with foreigners buying property in Japan?
I heard something, and I don't know if this is correct, but I heard that he was trying to replace federal income tax with the revenue generated from tariffs. I don't know how this works, but Masters of Economics, Joseph Stockermans, what do you think about that idea?
I heard that too. I don't know too much about it. What I just see, again, I feel like my knowledge on that particular subject is limited to comments I read online, so I wouldn't say my sources are the greatest, but sounds like someone tried to do that, a president in the past, like right before the Great Depression, and then the Great Depression happened. So a lot of people point to that specific example of that exact policy going wrong. I mean, anything involving Trump and taxes, I think he's going to disproportionately again favor the wealthy class over middle America and
The
poor.
business owners. We're business owners now, Joey. We get to reap some of maybe hopefully the benefits here. Unfortunately, not the wealthy class quite yet, though. Oops. Can you hear me? Did I cut
What are you
out?
googling there? I hear you
Oh,
googling
I'm
something.
sorry. I was googling like who the last president was who tried to put those plans in. I was interested to see, but couldn't find it. Anyways, I actually while googling, I did see that Japan is increasing its interest rates. I think, right? Have you heard about that?
I did hear about that a little bit. Yeah, I don't think
We
too much.
we should definitely have a meal on this podcast soon to talk about loans in Japan. I think the loan game we're getting into a little bit. We're for anyone listening, we are working with piloting maybe a loan product with someone in California to try to get a loan in Japan. It's proving to be a little complicated, but you know, he's throwing out 2%, 3% interest rates, which is absurd in California, in the US.
Yeah, I did read somewhere that, again, I don't know how, I could be wrong with all these numbers, but something like 80% of residential mortgages are floating rate mortgages in Japan. So
Yeah.
the Bank of Japan is constrained from changing rates because everybody has these floating rate mortgages. I don't know how true the 80% number is, and I don't know how true the Bank of Japan is considering that when they decide on rate changes.
Yeah, I actually looked it up, and I think the common ARM structure or adjustable rate mortgage in Japan is the rates get reviewed every 6 months. So, like with every tick of the interest rate, like it screws over the entire, like everyone with with a loan in Japan eats it, which that's brutal. But for us over here in the States, where we're dealing with 7, 8% interest rates, I'm happy to hear if we can somehow get 2 to 3% loan, especially on a samurai compound, which has been socialized with us. Joey, how do you feel about this Ishikawa off market deal that is hot off the press for us?
I think it's very exciting. I kind of want it. So for people not aware, I don't think we've talked about this before on the
This is our
podcast,
first
but
first debut. Yeah.
yeah, a friend of ours who is involved with the committee for some sort of government committee involving maybe these cultural properties in Ishikawa Prefecture. Again, I'm not exactly sure what this person's connection is, but let's just assume he's connected. He approached us with this is a former, I believe, samurai's residence, like, actual samurai from back in the day, way up in the Noto Peninsula. The actual structure and property was used as a art museum, I believe, for past little while. And very cool building. It looks like what a samurai residence would look like. Got its the samurai crest there and everything. And the prefecture was going to bulldoze this house. And I think this friend of ours who's part of that committee stepped in and said, let's try to find a buyer first. Let's spend 6 months trying to find a buyer. If not, we'll demolish the building. But he approached us and saying, this is going up in a private auction. Are we interested? You need to submit like a realistic bid to be part of the auction process. But this, I think the starting bid was like $40,000 US. So, which sounds like nothing for and this is like a registered cultural heritage property in Japan. So $40,000 for like a registered cultural heritage property. That is exciting. That's very cool. This off market deal.
It's like a true envision like a true samurai compound. It's got like the guard walls where I feel like there's little slits for like like bow and arrow people, stuff like
Yeah, like
that. It's got
really
like
like
eh, what
Last
so
Samurai.
this place is like a 5 hour drive from Tokyo and it's like really far out there. So me and Joey have been like, what the hell do we do with this place? Even though it's awesome, it's like so far away. And I guess we might be going in for a bit of like what 40K or something, which is low, but it's also like, are we ever going to spend time here, Joey? What's the monetization model? We don't know. A lot of questions.
Yeah, a lot of questions. Model is kind of the biggest blocker, I would say, for me right now. It's excuse me, it's far from Tokyo. It's not that far from our Miyoko property, so I do see like a chain
Yeah.
trip like that, but again, I don't know how we would like this museum closed because they weren't seeing any traffic come through. Do we really think that we could take this property and turn it into something profitable? It's a good question. I think, yeah, I don't know. Maybe opening, like, if anybody is interested out there in a samurai property, former residence, samurai residence, let's say bidding starts at around $40,000. Just send us an email. I don't know if you can get in.
No.
No promises. I don't know. Maybe we're
We'll get
we're
more
still going to jump
information
on it.
soon. Our
Yeah, we'll
guy's
get more
going
information
actually on the
soon.
ground. He's going, I think, next week to check it out. And again, we're seeing like maybe we might be able to finance this. It seems very murky. But it's interesting. We are getting approached left and right with some more off market deals. If you are in Japan, we're also actually, we launched a new product, Akiyamart Native Listings, where we are now doing more. We're trying to help people sell their Akiyas directly a little bit more so than them listing on Japanese sites. As we mentioned before, we've seen a huge uptick in site traffic. So it's cool to see that we are able to get eyeballs onto these people's Akiyas. So Akimart Natives listings plug. If you know anyone that wants to advertise, let us know. But overall, I think the theme of this year, Joey, is we're working a little bit more with local governments, or we're trying to. We're actually connected with someone in Nagano now, someone in Ishikawa, trying to figure out like how do we help leverage Akimart to show more of these Akia bank info or off market deals to folks. Exciting
Yeah,
times.
kind of like I don't know, feels like Lord of the Rings. We could be the one ring to rule them all. There's a bunch of smaller Akia banks out there that poor UI. No one's really discovering them. Could be something that we could. I don't know if muscle our way in is the right word, but like I do think we can provide value to all these prefectures that are trying to find buyers for these abandoned homes.
Yeah, absolutely. It's crazy to see how fragmented the tech is in Japan specifically, and like everyone, we're working with a couple larger Japanese corporates at this point. It's just like Joey and I have really taken for granted our tech grinding corporate experience the past 10 years. I feel like,
Really
going
have.
on Zoom meetings, sharing stuff, using like general like profit like automation tools or efficiency tools have been really compounded and built into us at this point.
If anyone, there's Japan kind of is the land of opportunity. If anybody is, feels like they know their way around modern internet tools, I believe there's opportunity in Japan. It really is eye opening working with some of these Japanese companies and seeing and even just taking a look at Japanese internet. I do think there's a lot of opportunities in Japan. Now that being said, very hard to break into the market there.
Very hard, but it's like once you've broken in, I do feel like we all of a sudden feel like there's a huge opportunity for us. Like there's so much stuff to disrupt if we just apply what we have in Western tech over to Japan, even if it's like base like stuff we were working with 2 years ago.
Like
But I
try to do anything in Japan, coming from America, and you will see opportunity. You'll see you'll feel friction, 100% guaranteed. You'll feel friction, and you'll see opportunity.
I specifically remember, so Joey and I, we went to this larger corporate, office, and it was a good experience. It was really eye opening. Like we'd driven in from Tama Base campus and parked, and then we went to this like really ritzy hotel. Like that hotel was awesome, Joey.
The
Um,
Okura, it's where the American. Speaking of Trump, it's where the
s-
American presidents stay. They have their own
really?
build. American presidents have their own building that I believe, looking at the Wikipedia, is exclusively reserved for the American president.
Whoa. Okay. It is like dripping style, mid-century modern, like so cool. We definitely should go back. But we went in. So the company we were trying to partner with, or still partnering with, works in that office. We went in for like like a business meeting. Both Joe and I had done a lot of corporate tech meetings. I used to work at Google and like host a lot of people. So everything's usually like set up in the room. You have the monitor, you have the speaker, the HDMI cable to plug in. We went into this meeting room and it was just like mayhem, absolute craziness. Like,
The webcam was funny. They like could they that I mean the room wasn't set up to use a webcam, so they had this like little third party portable one, and they're trying to like get it at the right angle so that the whole room is in view, and like there was nowhere to put it. It wouldn't balance on the TV properly because the top of the TV was sloped. That was like a 45-minute ordeal trying to get the the web, and I think we scrapped it in the end.
Yeah, and it was cool though. At the same time, there's still a lot of like traditional aspects where like they were picking up the phone and being like, "Can we get this waitress over here?" And the waitress is like taking our order for coffee and stuff. And it was like, very formal. Like it was interesting. I'm glad we got to see a little bit of like
What
not
I
traditional business in Japan and with the merging of modern tech.
So actually, I mean, this stuck with me. I have no idea, and maybe this was specific to the individual, so maybe there's nothing to read here. But we all ordered coffee. I got iced coffee. Can't remember if you got anything, Taka. Maybe you just had water. But the two Japanese businessmen we were meeting with, they both ordered iced coffee as well. They didn't touch it. The whole like they didn't even open the
Really?
thing or take the straw out or stick it in. They didn't touch it at all. I was the only one that drank the iced coffee. I think that maybe they drank the water from the water bottles. I can't remember, but I don't know. That stuck with me for some reason. Maybe they were nervous. I don't know. First business meeting with us. I'm not sure, but I
What?
thought it was weird.
They
Yeah,
didn't touch the coffee at all?
they didn't touch. They didn't even take the top off to like put the straw
Wow.
in.
Maybe they did that just to like blend in with you. Like, oh, Joey's getting iced coffee. I'm gonna get the same thing.
Yeah, it could be. I'm thinking about it too much, but I remember that.
All right, let's transition a little bit. I think, yeah, we've realized a lot that our tech backgrounds and our corporate background, just like answering email and stuff, has trained us in a weird way. So looking back, quite thankful. But moving forward, it seems like something that's really enabled us, Joey, I think is AI, right? And like almost every aspect of what we've been building has been so much easier. With like we really started this business with AI, right? Same
Yeah,
time as like when ChatGPT's. So tell me about the coding side. What have you been? How much has it helped you? Tell us about the CTO
exactly. So
British boss you have.
sometimes I feel like a 10x, 20x engineer as a result of AI. I do use it like I do. So peers that I hear talk about use it a little bit more embedded than I do. For anyone else listening out there that knows what I'm talking about, I just ask targeted questions of ChatGPT here and there. I don't use Cursor or any of the new tools that IDEs that have AI built in and understands your code base a lot more. I am a little bit concerned that maybe I'll eventually fall behind if I don't start using those tools. So maybe I should give it another go. Just for now, I write my own code and then just ask targeted questions of ChatGPT now and then. But even that, 20x productive, I would say. In the early days of building our website, I had I think they call it like a system prompt or like a prompt you put at the very start of every conversation with ChatGPT. And I just asked it to talk like one of the characters from Top Boy. I was listening to a lot of British hip hop at that time. And just kind of like enjoy, I think in my head, I was just, sitting in a coffee shop all day listening to British hip hop. And then when I was talking to ChatGPT, I wanted it to be one of these artist that I was listening to or something like that. So I had these system prompts where I told it to, if anyone's watched the show Top Boy, kind of like The Wire, but based in London. I wanted it to like sound like one of those characters, and it was pretty funny at the start. I've since abandoned that, but
Top boy.
my
He's
my friend Chris in Santa Fe, who is I know him from grad school, but a very smart guy in the machine learning and AI space himself. And he scared me. He was like, those who no one knows how the prompts affect the answers, and he's like, adding that type of stuff could make it give you sub quality answers, or no one
Chris
really
is
knows
too
how the AI is
cautious.
doing it. So he was being cautious. So since I've been considering that, because there have been a
Okay.
lot of times where AI has kind of boxed itself into a corner, and it's like not, for example, Stripe API. It took me at first, kind of classic, didn't want to read the documentation to get set up with Stripe API and just asked ChatGPT to write it for me. And stuff wasn't working. It wasn't working, seemed real, obviously seemed confusing because I wasn't putting in the time to actually understand what's going on. But, sometimes it gets so fixated on certain things and it can't like zoom out to understand holistically what you're trying to solve here for your business. So certain, and I do feel like that took me, I wasted a week on a solution that ChatGPT was pushing me towards. So I kind of got out of calling him Top Boy and getting him to use the voice. But
No.
the best part of it was I asked him in my system prompt to end every message to me with some sort of motivational thing. So like it used to say, like you got this big man ting or like something like that after every message to me. So that was nice, but yeah, I don't do that anymore.
I specifically remember visiting you in Cambridge when you had dreads, you had a Cambridge boxing club kind of like red jacket on, and we went to this Chinese place near your house like every day. That was a vivid memory that sticks with me.
It wasn't dreads, it was cornrows, but
Cornrows, sorry,
same thing.
cornrows. Yeah, cornrows. I think you had a temporary Mike Tyson tattoo on your face too. Those were the days, Joey.
I missed the Chinese food in Cambridge. It's really good.
Yeah. So I mean, interesting that like we really we saw an article and you'd sent stuff like the new thing right now is like two-person startups that leverage AI to grow really fast. And I think we are maybe one of those, right? We have become one.
Definitely, we don't use too much AI in the product itself. We use a little bit, like we translate a lot of Japanese text. Sometimes it gets it right, sometimes it gets it wrong, and I think we're spending a little bit too much money, and I need to, retweak some parameters there. I just haven't had time to get to that. So, from the product, we're not leveraging AI as much. I think there's more we could do at the moment. We're not
Hmm.
doing too much, but from a development perspective, yeah, I don't think there's any engineers out there really now that aren't using AI.
Yeah, we're using it in like every asset of our business too. When we do consults, we have note takers, which has been huge. You know, we've talked to so many people and we haven't taken a single typed note. I feel like in our conversations for the past year, which is breath of fresh air as a current recruiter. Such a good tool, and it summarizes like who we chatted with. We can send it to agents. Could not have been here without AI. Thank God.
Could not have done it. In all honesty, though, like I do enjoy writing code. Sometimes I'll turn it off for certain problems that I know I'm going to enjoy writing the code for. I will turn it off and then just write it myself. And I don't know. I like to think that that keeps me sharp. I have no idea if it does or not, but for certain problems, I will turn it off. I still enjoy writing code. So
Well, AI is about to boom. So going back to Donald Trump, I heard the U.S. has that Project Stargate. Masayoshi from SoftBank put in 100 billion. Think the U.S. is putting for another total 500 billion to try to make U.S. the AI capital of the world, which I think it's doing a pretty good job of. Japan's got what's that one company, Sakana AI. I don't really know what their thing is, know that what they do, but
they
have you
research
heard
AI.
of them? The
Yeah,
research AI.
they're
Okay.
they're kind of more like a research R&D business. I mean,
Mm.
maybe someday they'll come out with like a product, like kind of like OpenAI. I feel like they're like OpenAI minus the ChatGPT product.
Okay. I've been hearing a lot of buzz on DeepSeek, China's AI. Have you heard
Yeah.
about anything? Like, do you think that's a
Yeah.
viable for us to use from a cost perspective?
I mean, I always made the joke, first when we started using OpenAI. So we use, sorry, no, we actually use Gemini in our product now. I have the code half written to switch over to OpenAI API, but it's kind of expensive, I will say, for what we're doing. I'm sure there's some inefficiencies in what we're doing, and I do need to take another look at it. But I would say kind of expensive, especially for a hobby project. So I always made the joke that, oh, I can't wait for the Chinese and Russian large
There it
language
is.
models to come out. Just just thinking about cost here. But yeah, DeepSeek is that model. I took a look at its API costs about a week or 2 weeks ago, and it's less than half of what Gemini,
Ooh.
Google's LLM is charging us. So pretty, I haven't played around with it, but we're not doing anything too crazy. We're translating
Just
real estate
translating. Yeah.
listings. So I do think it would very likely be adequate and might be worth us switching over to DeepSeek. That being said, there's a lot of skepticism in the space too. So DeepSeek, they're claiming whatever, they built their model, trained it, or I don't know
$6
the exact
million or something.
$6 million versus and what OpenAI asked for 7 trillion or something to build AGI. So some people don't believe that they did that. They believe they're actually sitting on a lot of NVIDIA chips in secret. Again, something with trade embargoes and sanctions that they're not supposed to have those chips. But some people believe they actually, whatever, through black market or something, do have access to those chips and they're just not talking about it.
This is the Timu of AI. I hate Timu. My mom buys so much Timu shit.
I don't know if this team. I haven't played around with it in all honesty,
Okay.
but everyone is talking about how good it is. So I kind of think it's a real rival. I don't. Obviously, it's gonna probably have some level of censorship, but I don't believe that the American ones are without censorship either. So
True. All right, Joey. If we're redoing our descriptions, let's say we go down this road, we do decide let's use DeepSeek. My request on the descriptions on the each listing is to have bullet points.
oh
I
yeah,
feel
I mean
like
that's been top of mind for
okay,
it was gonna be my Christmas project, but then my Christmas project kind of turned into meme paku
native list.
over short
Okay,
term. But yeah, I agree. 5 bullet points
yeah.
max. Yeah, I agree. That's
But
the real brain rot way of doing this.
can we also have it try to pull leasehold, non-leasehold in just like description format, or what do
We
you?
have it.
How would
So
you approach
I've
that?
actually been
Hmm.
pulling that information all along. Sorry to
Okay,
everybody out there who's been using our product and want to know if the property is leasehold or freehold. I have that information in our database for every single listing. The biggest issue, so we're actually scraping a lot more data than we're presenting. The biggest issue is that it's free form data. So it's not like I'm pulling in the data in the sense like freehold, yes or no. It's, I wish it was that like a Boolean value, it's called in software engineering or mathematics, a Boolean value, a true or false, yes or no. No, it's free form text. So sometimes people write a paragraph when really all I want to know is this leasehold, yes or no? But sometimes they'll put a paragraph in there and, I can't mechanically through code determine whether that's yes, whether that's freehold yes or no. So I've just been sitting on that data. The best way would be to pass it to, DeepSeek or OpenAI, some sort of AI, and ask the AI to translate that into a yes or no.
Absolutely. And we know a lot of people have reached out. Us ourselves have been disappointed at times where we like find a dope property, then we all of a sudden find out it's leasehold. So top of mind. Thank you, Joey, for
That's
yeah.
actually why for savvy users that know our website, if you look at, there is a filter called has free parking on our website, and there's like a little, in parentheses it says beta. That's because I made an attempt. So that's free form text. It's not like, does this property have free parking? Yes or no. It's, does this property have parking? And then the ability for Japanese real estate agents to, like, write a paragraph if they want to. So there's, infinite different ways that Japanese real estate agents are answering this question. And I tried my best to come up with like a mechanical way of turning that into a Boolean yes or no, with limited success. And that's why it says beta, because it's wrong some of the time. And I think AI will get it right, much closer to 99.99% of the time.
Yep. Let's do it. I'm pumped. I think yeah, we've gotten so much feedback from folks and Joey, hats off to you. One man team building this website. So let's see what AI can do here. But leaseholds coming soon, bullet points coming soon. If you have any strong feelings on what should be in the description, we do acknowledge that ChatGPT has a lot of fluff in some of these descriptions. Like I've personally never read one description on our site from start to end. Have you, Joey?
I agree. No, especially the area descriptions. Yeah, I don't. So I know I fully accept it, guys. Sorry, the descriptions are very littly helpful. Whatever I'm trying to say, not very helpful. The
I
tiniest bit.
I had a friend actually reach out. He's like, "I love your guys' area description." I'm like, "What? Really?" He's like, "Yeah, it helps me get a better understanding." And actually, no, we should
We
let's
just need to
talk about
remove
this
the
more. Yeah.
fluff. Like sometimes I think it
Yeah.
does pull in interesting information. Like it'll talk about, randomly I'm on some listing in Hokkaido and it's like, oh, hey, this arts and crafts museum is 3 blocks away, kind of thing. Like sometimes it
Oh,
does pull in something interesting, but it's surrounded by this layer of AI fluff that, like, where my eyes just
yeah.
glaze over.
Nestled in a picturesque district of
Yeah,
blah 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 with vibrant, like
so
lush
bad.
greenery. Like,
Yeah, I do
no.
think the bullet points is the way to go.
Yeah, I wonder. Let's play around with the prompting. It'd be interesting to be like, hey, tell us, could it link us like a great restaurant within 10 mile, 10-minute walk or something like that? Closest ramen shop, hyperlink it kind of thing. Probably too much, but
Yeah, maybe I'll build us like a quick tool. So a lot of the prompt engineering is a little bit scary to change. So maybe I'll build us a tool. So here's how it works for everybody out there, kind of thing. So we scrape listings. We're scraping a lot of listings every day, but in terms of new listings, let's say 2,000 to 5,000 new listings every day. And of those listings, there's a single prompt I have that takes in all the information about the listing. I tell it what to do, and then it spits out these descriptions of the property and descriptions of the area. If I change that prompt, I can play around with it on my computer and I can see how it works for like this property or, this single property, one off tests. But as soon as I make that change and I unleash it onto the world, it's going to start doing that for every single property coming through. And it's hard to know, is it going to make mistakes? Is it going to talk about Hiroshima? Like, for example, one of the early problems I ran into was I asked it to make a area description, as we were just talking about. But for properties in Hiroshima, it kept talking about World War II, which is not something I wanted to talk about in descriptions for
no.
these properties. So small changes can sometimes have unintended consequences. Sometimes it stops translating and I don't know if anybody else has ever seen this, very rarely it'll leave Japanese characters as is in the resulting property translation. So sometimes small changes have unintended consequences for what we're trying to do here for the resulting description and area description. So it is a little bit scary changing the prompt, and I don't have a good way of, like, I can test it for one or two or three properties, but when we apply it to
Yeah.
every property in our data set, it's hard to know what it's going to do.
It's funny. I remember one of the translations. There's like that one town called like Cannabis Town or something like that. Like
Yeah.
Joey, is this right, man?
I sent you one the other day, Big Money Station.
Oof,
So those
that's a
are
good one.
actually, that's a different problem. So, again, people familiar, you might see things like the town, so the addresses that we have on Akia Mart and then the nearest train station that we have, those are actually translated not with AI, but with Google Translate API. So it sometimes will translate things literally. So there is a town, I think in Tokushima, Taimashi or Taimamachi or something like that, which the literal translation, Japan used to be a large hemp producer back before the Americans imposed cannabis restrictions following World War II. Japan used to produce a lot of hemp, and this town is called Taima Town or, Cannabis Town, Hemp Town, somewhere in Tokushima. But Google Translate API translated that literally. And now the town, if you look at the address for properties there on Akiyamart, it's going to say Cannabis Town. Or I found one the other day that I sent to you, Talk, a Big Money Town, Big Money Station. So those are actually translated with Google Translate API, which is it's not AI, it's a mechanical translation that, this is pre AI days that Google came out with this. So there's issues there, as well, clearly with the mechanical translation. There's issues with AI translation. There's no silver bullet, but AI is the closest to the silver bullet that we have right now.
What other things would you like to see in the description? Do you think prefecture is good to have? Like, do we have a per prefecture we have a non AI or like we have some hey, Okayama's famous for XYZ kind of thing, or do you think that's just like too much?
I thought about something. It's going to be so repetitive, Every listing is going to have that same information on it. Like
Maybe
every
we have
listing
like
in
a
Shizuoka.
page, like find more about Okayama properties and it has like maybe it goes to our landing page on specific like Okayama stuff where we can link to stuff. We can maybe take
And now,
advertiser stuff
now you're
there.
getting to
Like,
SEO strategy.
ooh, okay, opening up a whole new box. Great job on SEO, by the way. I feel like we've been doing quite well since the changes as you put in.
All thanks to can't remember who we talked to. We talked to one of your buddies, but
Brian Randy Ta. Shout out. He's a homie over at Coinbase, Airbnb. Did a lot of their SEO strategy. Hit him up for consulting if you guys are interested.
yeah, I think he does consulting, right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. All right, Joseph. That was a lot of Dear Diary series long form. Again, we didn't talk too much about Akia, but hey, plug for our samurai. What are we calling? Non so samurai house compound. Samurai compound. We'll come up with a
Yeah, I,
creative
I
name.
don't know if we can offer it to anybody else, guys. I might have jumped the gun there, but
Yeah.
maybe something to consider for the future. It does seem like this individual has more cultural heritage properties that are going to be up for sale soon.
Yeah. So all right, man. We are going to Japan quite soon. We're going for a whirlwind trip mid February to early March. We know there's a lot of people, but we're going to be moving fast. One of our main goals is to buy this house in Nagasaki. Again, we're setting up the rails to hopefully sell this via crypto. A lot of question marks for us there. Hope might be the first Bitcoin sales property, I hope. So, but if you are interested in a pretty nice, well maintained property in Nagasaki near the ocean for quite affordable, cheap, with everything included. So, we're going to put a car, we're going to do a home inspection. We will have some local on the ground people that speak English to help project manage. Give us a holler.
Let us know,
Anything else?
especially if you want to buy it in Bitcoin.
Yeah, only accepting Bitcoin or Ethereum. Or are we accepting stable coins? Maybe. A lot. Also, yeah, big.
Maybe.
Let's see. I'm bullish on crypto. Also, another Trump topic. I think lots been happening. So I think we need to make a Akiyamart Bitcoin strategic reserve, Joey. That's my final thought.
Buying at the all-time high, always a great strategy.
Just dollar cost average. I think we got to start dollar costing averaging
Yeah,
a
I
little
do
bit.
believe in dollar cost averaging.
Yeah, let's dollar cost average. I'm more bullish on Ethereum, but I know we have a lot of crypto listeners here. So tell us what we should do. But other than that, Joey, hope you feel and get back to 100%. And I will see you in Japan soon.
See you soon.